Welcome to the Wounded Leadership Podcast, Stories from the Wounded. I'm your host, Dr. Matthew Tanner, the founder of Wounded Leadership Ministries. You know, the calling to shepherd God's church brings some of life's greatest joys and adventures. Yet this calling also comes with profound challenges. Many church leaders face those challenges in silence. Nearly every pastor will experience the pain of unjustified termination or forced resignation at least once in their ministry journey. On this podcast, we create a safe place where wounded leaders can share their stories, find community, and discover pathways toward healing and a renewed purpose. Each episode will bring honest conversations with those who have walked through the valley of ministerial suffering and emerged stronger on the other side. Whether you're currently serving in ministry, recovering from church trauma yourself, or simply want to better understand the challenges that are facing today's church leaders, this podcast is for you. It will offer biblical wisdom, practical strategies, and genuine hope. Now let's begin today's conversation. And I am excited about, it's tonight's guest for me and it's tomorrow's guest for him, but that's going to confuse everybody as you begin to listen to it. But I've got Dr. Don Easton from Verve Lead, if I'm saying this correctly, the founder of Verve Lead. And Don, you and I met first of all, in LA. And then we met just a few weeks ago in Houston, but you are from the Gold Coast of Australia. So yeah, we'll kind of share how that came together. We met together at the Common Table Network, fell in love with you as a person, as a brother in Christ, but also in love with your ministry. And we had some time in Houston just to share, you got to share your heart. So Don, introduce yourself, and then we're going to get to hear your story of wounding and also healing. So Don, who are you?
Well, Dr. Matt, it's a pleasure and privilege to be with you today and to share with the audience here. Matt, I love your heart for helping pastors through difficult times. Thank you for the contribution you're making to God's kingdom and helping those who have been damaged in the fight, those who have been faithful in fighting the fight and have got wounded, and helping them back to a place of wholeness. Really appreciate this space. And we share a common heart, and
Absolutely.
And likewise, love you as a brother. And it was delight to meet you at the Common Table. And I just love that gathering that Dr. Thad Austin is organizing with people like Professor Chris Adams. It's amazing how this collaboration of people who are practitioners like us and researchers and also denominational leaders gather on an annual basis with a concern of clergy health and congregational well-being. So we met back in LA in Biola University, which was hosting the occasion. I was there because I have a passion to see leaders finish the race, to be able to fight the good fight and to be able to keep the faith.
Absolutely.
And I reflect on my own journey. I started ministry when I was fairly young, 21 years of age, into full-time ministry. And after 37 years of ministry, the thing that's caused me to stop and literally stop for 6 months completely out of full-time ministry, I had been a founder of churches, planted churches, and my most recent I'd planted in 92. And I had walked through incredible issues, incredible difficulties and tough times. But do you know, Matt, the thing that stopped me was not the classic temptations. The thing that stopped me was emotional depletion. And I set about a journey of coming back to health. It took 3 years, and I can unpack that a little more if you want. And I'd love to talk about the what led to it and what the signs were and how do you get over emotional depletion, because it really is a epidemic if you use COVID terms. It's an epidemic that is impacting the Christian leaders, pastors, Christian leaders in all kinds of caring professions globally. It is not just a North American thing. It's not just an Australian thing. It is something that impacts people globally. And
Absolutely.
and so I have a passion to see Christian leaders get restored and get refilled and be able to return to the fight and to be able to continue to complete the the calling that God has placed upon their lives.
Yeah, I call it the silent killer because we tend to always point to other things, and there's the big ticket
Mm.
items that always are pointed to, or what's taking out pastors. But I agree 100%. What's taking out more
Mm.
pastors than anything is that emotional depletion, and it sounds like it surprised you that that's what
Uh,
took you out.
well, 100%, Matt. It's the you don't see it coming,
Mm.
and it's a part of the condition is that the worse you get, the less you see,
Oh wow,
and it's like the blinder you get.
yeah,
Um,
for sure.
a and I'd been a denominational leader as well as a church planter, a leader in Australia for 10 years. And before that, I'd looked after state leadership in Queensland and in also South Australia. So significant amount of time. And I could see in others when they were running out of steam, and you could see it in the metrics of the church that the church had plateaued and the church was in decline.
Mm.
Um, and there were factors that were contributing to this, and it's not always the case that plateau or decline is a result of emotional repletion, but, but it's a good question to
A lot
ask. What
oh,
happened
yeah,
in the
a
back?
lot of times and sometimes whatever is causing the plateau and the decline is also the cause of the emotional depletion, which it tends to snowball. Let's
Well,
start at let's go
it
ahead.
all it all runs together. But
Oh, for sure.
so did I answer your question about I didn't see it coming, and I remember feeling there's something wrong. I went on holidays in January 14, and I love going on holidays with my wife, and went to my in-laws' place, and a normal thing to do is sit and read a book, and I started reading a book as I normally do, and got through the first paragraph and go, "What
Mhm,
did I read?" And go
mhm.
back again and go and read it again and go, "Oh, this is way too hard," and so close the book and go, "This is not good." My mind's foggy,
Wow.
and I just can't take it in, and I go, "Okay," because normally when you go to somewhere you're used to replenishing, you dive in real quick to that space of, taking a breath of fresh air. It's doing me good. It's a place I'm familiar with, and but here so I opened my iPad and started watching a movie, and then fell asleep and go,
You just
"Okay,
passed out.
something's not good."
Yeah.
And then starting to being aware of an increasing sense of fatigue in my body. I remember coming home from the holiday, and my family came over, and my children, and I have 8 beautiful grandchildren and 3 married children and their spouses. So one of them came over with their kids, and I'm feeling I just want to go in my room and watch a video.
So you didn't even wanna engage?
Something's wrong. Something's
Yeah,
wrong here. So I'm feeling like there's nothing in the tank, and I'm feeling like I'm starting to withdraw, and and it never whenever I started to think about work is like, "Nah, nah, gee, I feel bad." The church is booming. We've bought land, and we'd had multiple congregations, and with church planning and and
yeah.
denominational leadership, and like all the like in many books, people will go, "You're doing a wonderful job," but I was feeling like I'm sucking it.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and I didn't realize that those 3 things were the core components of burnout,
sure.
that emotion, feeling highly depleted, withdrawal in key relationships, high withdrawal and avoidance, and also feeling bad about your output. I hadn't realized that they or didn't understand. I go to my doctor, my GP, and I said, "Hey, doc, I've known him for 20 years, walking me through all kinds of difficulties and ailments. And I said, Doc, you got to do some blood tests. I think I've got an alpha virus, a mozzie virus I'd had before, called Barmer Forest,
Mhm.
here in Australia, a mozzie-borne thing that gives you a fatigue
Yeah.
feelings. And so I think that's what's wrong with me. And he kind of smiled. He goes, I'm the GP. You're not.
It's
You're telling me.
yeah.
Anyway, so so he's listens to the things that I'm aware of, and he says, Don, I think you're heading to burnout. he says, "You need to have some time off." And I said, "No, I can't have time off because it's like this is January. February's Vision Month in Australia, and it's like this is gearing the church up for the new year, and I'm
All these things you got to do.
and it's like and besides that, as the national operations for our movement, I've got all the state directors coming together in March, and I'm leading into that, and so thinking of a month off was like, nah, it ain't
Yeah,
gonna happen.
yeah. You're like, I
and, he,
can't
and, he,
quit.
and he sighs and he goes, well, I'll see you in a month, and a month later I turn up back in his office, and meanwhile I'd started to as his advice to chat with a psychologist, and that was a
Mhm,
gift from God. How that unfolded, a Christian gentleman, and who was very careful, and but also a beautiful gift. And so I come back in a month, and I'm talking to my GP, and he says, "Don, this has gotten worse."
mhm.
And it's critical that you have time off. And I said, "Well, I can't just now. I could in April
Give me one more month.
because
One more, one more.
I get to the end of that time in March, that big occasion in March. My first grandson was born on the Friday that that event finished. I flew home from Sydney to the Gold Coast, looked at my grandson, and it's just this beautiful gift from God.
Mm,
And anyway, within 2 weeks, I had organised to finish, to stop, to rest.
wow.
And I felt so numb um, as I stopped. It's like the adrenaline wheel ran me over.
Mhm.
um, and in stopping, the symptoms got worse. The fatigue increased. The emotional depletion it felt so dark. The walls were so slippery. If someone had said to me, "Don, what you need to do is pray for an hour, and you'll get over this," I don't know what I would have done because they had nothing in the tank.
That's hard
And
for us to admit though that we're even to that point where we don't even want to do the spiritual disciplines. We don't even want to pray. We don't have any energy for that.
spiritual disciplines are really important, and I love my spiritual disciplines
Sure.
again. But at that time, I couldn't pray and I couldn't focus to read my Bible. Um, and it took me nearly 3 months to say to myself, the thing I've got to do today is to rest.
Mm,
It to give me permission to stop because I've been on the adrenaline and on go mode and all kinds of drivers from my family of origin, from my theological background, from my worldview, um, all go 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 go,
yeah.
um, and and then to be able to actually rest and to stop, to sit in the hammock and to start to do some woodworking, which I used to love as a kid in high school, and found a restorative place in that. And then as I'm walking by my pool, I heard this voice say, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." And I go, "That's the Holy Spirit speaking to me." And it's
Wow.
like, even though for a couple of months I'd not been my spiritual disciplines, not been in church, not been in communication with my leaders, not been on the planet, social media, just off off the
You just
radar.
disappeared it completely.
Yeah, yeah, and changed my phone number. I got got a burner phone, but a new phone,
Yeah.
and just heard this voice, and they go, he lets me rest,
Wow.
and that was just a beautiful thing, and realized that the word of God that I'd stored in my heart for all these years is still there and
Was
still was bubbling up on the inside, and he restores my soul for his name's sake. So if I can find some still waters and some green pastures and rest, then he's going to restore my soul.
yeah. How did you give yourself permission to, because that was a key point. Give yourself permission to find that rest.
There were several things that contributed to that. One of them, Matt, was actually calling it what it is.
Mm,
So I'm really grateful for the process because it troubles me when I see pastors who are in need of a regenerative time take generative leave. And so they're calling it something like, well, for example, a sabbatical, and which is an enrichment time by intention. But I went on sick leave
mm.
with my church and my board and my denomination, and the state government have sick leave, and they paid 100% of my salary, which was an incredible blessing because I didn't know how it was going to work.
Right.
Um, and they did that for 6 months, and then 18 months more they paid portion as and gave me a space to recover. So calling it what it is actually hard, but actually was really helpful
Why do we find that
because
hard to do, to just face it and call it what it is? Because I see this in different capacities. Those who are forced to resign, those who are burnt out. We have this tendency to try to almost baptize it. We try to talk around it. Why is it so hard for us to just call it what it is?
Well, I think it's the mental health stigma, Matt.
Okay.
I think that's the core of it, and it's like, well, pastors shouldn't get sick.
Pastors
Like, it's a
shouldn't.
what hope is there for me? But actually, I found the vulnerability of that really helpful because when I came back to work part-time and in my senior role, people would say, "Pastor, I'm praying for you, and is there anything I can do to help?" But I observed my friends who went on sabbatical leave, when they came back from leave, the congregational people and leaders would say, "So what's the new vision, pastor? You know, what has God spoken to you? What's the new thing?" And the pastors are shrinking inside going, "I'm just trying to get my head above water." And so calling it what it is really helpful. And the second, and I highlighted this before, is actually I had to come to a place where internally it's okay to rest. It's okay. And my psychologist was helpful, and my mentor was really helpful. So Dr. Keith Farmer, who was a student of Art Chart, an incredible gentleman in Australia, a significant mentor of denominational leaders in this part of the world. He kept asking me the questions, five beautiful questions in my journey back to health.
Mm,
Don, how's you and Jesus? This is after the 6 months off.
okay.
Um, so, so I'm back in a space where I'm starting to engage again with people. And how's you and Jesus, Don? How's your key relationships? Because remember, I was withdrawing from Jesus,
Yeah.
and and then how's your emotional tank? And because that impacts both your connection with people and your connection with Jesus.
Sure.
And so those three things are linked. And so spiritual vitality is linked with psychological well-being.
Sure.
And then fourthly, he had asked me the question, so is your world sustainable? You know, can you keep going at this pace? And then he'd asked the question, Don, if the devil's going to stop you, how would he do it? And in my first 3 months of engaging with him in the early of 15, I couldn't answer him that question because I go, well, he hasn't stopped me. And then I go, oh,
Yeti.
the devil did stop me. And it was emotional. And I ran out of energy.
That's what got you.
And so, in that focusing on emotional tank,
Mm,
your buoyancy levels, and he'd burrow into a little more. He'd say, so if 0 is I can't get out of bed, and 2 is I'm sinking and I can't do anything to stop it. 4
mhm.
is I'm under the surface and I could go either way. 6 is I'm just above the surface, but one crisis will push me under. 8 is
Wow.
I'm starting to see others and I'm giving others some help and reaching out to others. And 10 is I'm changing the world and getting them out of the water into the boat. You'd ask me that question, how's your emotional buoyancy?
Wow.
And then what can you do? What can you change to lift that buoyancy? You know, what air can you take in and what weight can you let go of?
Yeah, that's a hard question, especially for performance driven people, or which most pastors are. It's a calling, it's a passion. We're supposed to give everything to it. But even Jesus rested. And
100%. So what I guess I'm highlighting here, Matt, is the priority or the importance of having someone in our world to ask those kind of questions to help us focus on that. Of course, our world, like you said, is
mhm,
performance driven, and our measures of success are our cultural measures. I don't think they're kingdom measures. That's
sure.
another thing to unpack. The performance driven part of us helps us to perpetuate the adrenaline wheel, whereas actually we're far more successful, far better, far more engaged with God's kingdom, and far more fruitful if we do what Jesus did: take time to be with the Father and to rest.
That's so hard to get into our minds to do, and to we say it, but do we believe it and practice it?
Well, I don't think we by ourselves can do that, Matt. Uh,
Okay.
I think it's through Jethro with Moses. You need the wise father who can say, "You've been an idiot," to the son-in-law.
Stop being stupid.
"Stop being stupid, and you're killing my babe, my daughter." But there's that side of it. But put in another context, we need fathers in the faith, or mentors, or coaches who can
Mhm.
hold up the mirror and say, "Look, you keep going like this, where's this going to head?" And if you were to actually pause and to take a breath like Jesus did, then what would the outcome be?
Wow. Would you say that isolation was the biggest ingredient? The ingredients of the burnout that led you to where you were? I guess go back to the beginning of the story and talk a little bit more about how you got there.
Well, I I think it's a for us it was sustained stress over a long period of time.
Mm,
So when and I use this, I referred to the scripture when we're starting. Paul at the end of his day is saying, "I fought the good fight," and it is a good fight. It's a brutal battle at times,
sure.
and 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 it's the high demands. Dreschke, I think it is, calls as 64 competencies required for a high-level senior minister. That is for a denominational leader who does not have to worry about property, financial affairs, legals, and for any non-denominational independent church, you
Mhm.
add another huge number of complexities. So
Sure.
so all those complexities that are required in the role today, and that's compounded by the whiplash. One moment you might be in a high level meeting talking about, well, we're doing this building project, and it's a few $1,000,000, and we're X amount of thousands, hundreds of thousands short, and how we're going to do this, how we're going to meet this shortfall. Is it going to get across the line? To the phone rings, and it's one of your long term founding members, and their son has just committed suicide at his wife's home, and the little baby has found the body. And it's almost like you go whiplash, and then in your own personal griefs, not spending time to pause and to process those griefs, or the griefs of you're just a sister dying when she was 32, giving birth to her third child, and she'd rung you the day before to say, "I've named him after you," and you're really close to her, and she'd come to know Jesus in my first public altar call when I was 18, and you're not pausing to deal with those griefs, but just going, "Okay, we've got to get on with it." It's like
Yeah.
we just got to minister, and so and then being in a movement that is growing rapidly, and church planning, and that adds another complexity,
Sure.
and going, okay, I didn't pause and stop and learn to breathe. And when anyone would ask me, "How you doing?" I wouldn't, who was in authority over me, I wouldn't pause and say, "Actually, I've got an increasing anxiety." I wasn't aware of it,
Mm.
but even
Well, you're running
didn't
too fast. I mean,
feel that I wanted to give them a problem with saying, things are a little tough at times. I didn't want to give them another problem. I just was there to solve their problems. I was there to help fight the fight and help the
Yeah.
cause grow and expand. And
Why are we afraid to ask for help? Why are we afraid to say, I need a minute. I need a breath. Like, it's like you see in sports, tapping yourself on the helmet, like I need tap out for a few plays.
well,
Why is
yeah, and like I observe that in professional sports people that they are really reluctant. Like we have concussion protocol here.
Yep.
So footballer gets knocked out. It was like we got to go through the process, and I'll see them being groggy on the field, and no, go away. I'm not
Yeah.
going to do that.
Yeah,
I'm all
and
right.
and
All right.
just for the record, when you say football, I think you mean something different than what we would picture,
I
but it's still
I
the
I
same.
I did check into the Super Bowl and
Um,
and saw some incredible, smart, competent athletes performing amazingly. Personally, Australian rules football is my passion, and I
sure.
enjoy the other football,
The other
which
football, which is not to confuse the whole audience right now on what sport are we talking about at this moment. However,
swimming.
but really anything like that is like we are so afraid to take a moment because we're taught from so many different ways that if you take a moment, then everything's going to wash past you, or you're going to be replaced,
Well,
or
yeah, the healthier emotionally the emotionally healthier sports people feel okay when they're injured to pause and to rest. And the crowd cheers and gives them permission to be able to do that, and cheers when they come back on the ground, and
sure,
because they know their team's going to lift because they've rested and they're fit to be able to play.
sure,
I think if we're looking at our position and our place within the leadership structure, and to say to our boss, not well, I need a minute, is like, oh, this puts a question mark over me.
why is that strength and not weakness to do that?
I I guess it's our personal insecurities, Matt.
Mm,
That'd be what I'd say. But also, I think it's a systemic thing that it's when a leadership's under pressure, it's harder to stop. Like if this team's not winning or the team is having great success,
and you want to
it, it,
sustain that.
you want to sustain it. So I think they're both ends of the spectrum
Yeah,
that make it just an environment that's harder for the leaders to pause and to go, okay, this is going to be okay. Let's look after our team.
yeah.
Um, yeah, one of the things I would advocate for, Matt, is it's really helpful to find someone who has a degree of independence to build transparency with.
Hmm.
So so that's a safe place. In Australia, we have had a royal commission on child sex abuse or institutional sex abuse,
Yeah,
and a royal commission is like a Senate inquiry.
sure,
It's the highest level investigation. What's the cause? What's the problem? And how do we fix it?
sure.
And it was scathing in terms of churches and institutions that abused children, and rightly so.
Mm,
Um, and they came to the conclusion that each leader, each Christian leader, Christian worker should have, and they called it here professional supervision, is a mentor coach who can help them understand, provide professional support, provide professional development, and help them focus on their professional standards. But that needs to have a degree of independence. So it can't be a bishop with a priest. It
mhm.
needs to be someone somewhere that has no dual relationship. There's no blurring of, well, is this about me or about the organization conversation? This is
Mm,
a focus on how are you doing here and what's your impact on others and your
absolutely.
organization. So that safe place is degree of independence. It's a long way of putting it, but
Sure.
that's valuable for honesty.
That's paramount. That's more than just valuable. It's a necessity. It's it's a little bit saddening to me that the world, I use that in quotes, the world, a world-driven commission can see that, and the church has missed it.
Well, that's some of the really interesting things that I'm thinking through because in Australia, it's not mandatory for our non-denominational churches, and the same in New Zealand yet, but it's the wording in New Zealand stronger. It should have, and for the Anglicans, the Catholics, it is mandatory here in Australia. The Baptists, and several of the denominations have made this mandatory as the Baptists with their link to their ordination renewal.
Oh, wow.
And I go, well, okay, you're taking this seriously, but some of our non-denominational churches are going, well, right.
Yeah,
You go,
we can handle our own, yeah, we can do this.
yes, yes.
How how did you know you were healed, ready to come back? Talk about the healing process, like, where are you on that? Are you still healing? Because I talk about people ask me all the time, "How did you know you were healed?" And I said, "Well, if you're talking about healed, I'll let you know when that happens, but I'm healing." So talk about that healing process, how you got back to full strength.
Sure, I'd love to do that. I walk with a limp. I walk with vulnerabilities. So so I've wrestled and bit like Jacob, got my hip joint,
Yeah,
and
a bad
and
hip
so I
now.
have vulnerabilities, and I have to pay a particular attention to emotional depletion and to managing the depleters in my life and managing the buoyancy activities in my life. And so I every week look at those measures of what I've been doing in the week and look at my calendar for the coming week and then readjust what's happening.
Yeah.
The journey to full strength was the term you used. It took 3 years when I started back to work, so
Mm,
3.5 years journey.
wow.
And 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 when I say back to full strength, I would say back to a new me, not back to an old me.
I like that.
And so I love the thought that it says in Psalm 23, which I quoted before, he restores my soul for his name's sake. And so I would say God has restored, or another word is renovated
Mhm.
and repurposed and given me a new assignment. So as I walk through the process of grief and through the difficult stages, as I talked about in Psalm 23, got to a place where there's this sense of new oil flowing over me, a new
Wow.
sense of assignment, new sense of purpose, and to I'm amazed at where Jesus has taken this. That he would enable a process of growth, of transformation, of discovery, and position me to be able to help others. My reach is far further. My impact is far greater than it ever was.
Wow.
And I'm deeply privileged for that, but that's not the driver. The driver is the kingdom of heaven is at
Mhm.
stake, and the expansion of his kingdom is at stake. And when leaders are at their best, it's best for everybody. And when we're depleted, it's bad for everybody. And so and so and so the more national leaders, the more regional leaders, the more organizational leaders I can empower to be at their best, it has a beautiful flow on effect. So concerns me, Matt, that sometimes people, because they've been injured and they're still bleeding all over the ground, want to engage with others and vicariously live out their pain again, or transfer their bitterness or their resentment onto others. It really concerns me that sometimes there's people who are still in a really bad condition and are not healthy yet are engaging when they shouldn't be.
That's where we find a lot of toxic leaders that are now
Yeah.
hurting others, and it's the same adage that hurt people, heal people.
Right, right. And so like Corinthians talks about, that the wounds we receive, we're able to bring healing to others, comfort to
Mm,
others. And
absolutely.
and that's a beautiful story. And I went on a journey. I went on a journey with where I'm coming back into health. And I'm working only 12 hours a week in my church responsibilities, but I could feel some tangible things happening. The tangible things I could measure from burnout was insomnia
Hmm.
and and heart palpitations and
Yeah.
fatigue. And so they're quantifiable things I could go, okay, this week there have been 4 nights that I've had insomnia. I felt
Mm.
fatigue 5 days and my heart's been racing. Instead of resting heart rate at the time was 60, it would be 90. Um,
Wow.
and and then I realized that there were things that were triggering me that I was engaging with. And so with the process of walking with my mentor as to managing the buoyancies, the depleters and the replenishers in my life.
Mm,
And then also talking with my psychologist about what is it that's triggering me. The
sure.
same issues of trust that were there because of the betrayal and the rejection that I'd walked through
Uh-huh.
were still present. And so I was bringing them into a board meeting or a meeting with a key leader, and transference was happening and I was projecting onto them.
Sure.
And, and, and so I realized that there were things in my world that needed to be healed still.
Yeah.
And so I kept asking the question, what does healthy look like? And that led me to sit in the class. I thought it was to be with Arch Hart, but he was not well at the time. He was sick with cancer, and his 3 daughters, who are all doctors in their own right, and Professor Chris Adams was there, and on the class was on leaders' health, and and I go, this is a breath of fresh air, and it feels just like what Keith Farmer's been talking with me about over
Sure.
these past year or so. And so I started thinking about how do we know what healthy is, which led me to form a qualitative study on how can we measure the health of a Christian leader.
Wow.
And this has just been validated at Biola with a doctoral student who is now a Dr. Surfer because she's passed her dissertation.
That's
And,
such a good point, man. Such a good
and
time.
yeah, so hey, we made a doctor.
We created our first doctor. Yes.
And that showed that the 25 behavioral expressions are reliable and valid.
Yeah.
And so we're able to, through investigative inquiry and through enabling reflective times with our client, we're able to help them to discover how healthy they are and also form a picture of what healthy looks like and take a pathway forward. So I digress a bit, but
No, it's
it's
fine.
like, how do I know what healthy is? I know what healthy is now.
Yeah.
And my question would be for our audience: do you know how healthy you are? And because we often, it's so subjective. It's like, well, I asked the question, how am I doing spiritually? Yeah, oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm still giving. I'm still reading the Bible. And
Yeah.
how am I doing? How am I doing with my key relationship wise? Well, I haven't killed anybody this week.
That's a plus. Yeah.
I haven't got divorced this week.
Yeah. Hey,
Uh,
my wife hadn't killed me, so I'm
and
good.
but what about that board member that you can't get on with? What about that
Yeah.
leader that you it just boils you? What and ask the question that dives into your spiritual vitality. Is what's the quality of this relationship rather than the quantity? And is your leadership transformative, or is it transactional, or am I just a narcissist at heart?
Well, but it's that taking that honest look, turning the light on, and instead of fake it till you make it, instead of puffing up all these false measurements, let's take a realistic look at, am I really healthy? But that should not scare them too much because you also give them like, but we can actually help you fix that.
There's inherent in the question, because the behavioral expressions is the behaviors, and they
Mm,
can observe the behaviors and go, okay. It's like Rich Attenborough following a banded rail around in its natural habitat, and you see this is what it's doing, and this is how it behaves, this is how it interacts, and you go, well, okay, so is this healthy or is it not? And how do we've got the behaviors? How can we get to the healthy behavior?
Yeah.
And then uh, it, the power of relationship and accountability is really important
Sure.
to enable that transformation.
Every time I hear I do this, I end up with about hours more questions and more that I want to know. So we'll probably come around and do a round two. But that pastor that's the buoyancy thing, he's way under. You know how Tell us about you. I mean, obviously, it's come out clearly your passion about helping people see their health level where it really is and help them change that. So, this is where I'm going to just step back and let you talk about your passion. Tell us about Verve Lead. Tell us about how God has taken that journey of burnout and created what He has you doing now.
Oh, I just got in the boat. I just said, Jesus, I'm coming, and
Okay.
and and that's when I was 16, and I'm so surprised it's taken me here,
Yeah,
and then when I thought the boat was sunk, um, and when I was going through burnout, it's like, oh my goodness, it's like this taking me to far greater and far wider.
yeah,
Um, Verve Lead, we officially started in Australia during COVID in 2020, and we've just started 501 US in this year,
that's
which
awesome.
is we put the seeds in the ground last year, but it's now registered. So
That's so
thank you.
awesome. Yeah,
We have a team of people, and what we're passionate about is empowering others to help others to be healthy. We call it sustaining leaders vitality.
hmm,
That's our passion, and our dream is not to have a huge team of practitioners, but our dream is to lift the quality of practitioners
absolutely.
globally. And God has put two immense resources in our hand. One is the Health of a Christian Leader assessment, which you can find on Verve Lead under Tools, Health of a Christian Leader assessment. That is designed to be used in conjunction with a well-being mentor. You can take it for personal self-reflection, but the danger of that is like I go to visit a doctor, so I'm cured.
I drove past the hospital, so I'm better.
Yes, yes. It's like please engage in an accountable relationship
Sure.
and with someone that can help you walk through what you see and how to get to a greater health. It's like taking a photo of a day, and it might be a bad hair moment, and you go, okay, gee, I got bags under my eyes. I'm really looking tired here. I need. So what are you going to do to have that better picture of you taken?
I
This is
love
not
that.
about creating an Instagram moment, but it's about creating a better, like a fake, not a real. I mean by that,
Yeah, yeah.
moment,
No, I know what you
but
mean.
actually sustainable health for the long term. And so we invite people to come back and take it again 6 months or 12 months and go, this has been transformative, this
Yeah.
relationship. And that's our real delight. I'm thinking of a couple that we trained in New Zealand. They're talking with pastors 3 years back. And the first conversation with the couple they're talking with was, well, we're probably not going to be having more chats because we want to tell you that we're preparing to get out of ministry. She says, I'm going back teaching. He says, I got nothing in the tank. I
Wow.
am cooked.
Wow.
Fast forward 3 years, they're not only restored to vitality in their own leadership of their own congregation, the denomination has seen the lift in them and they've been appointed the regional leaders. And not just their nation, but other nations, because of
Wow.
the impact the change that's happened for them. And I go, thank you,
Yeah.
Jesus. So that's what I love. I'm thinking, Matt, that about the church. Is it a cruise ship or a battleship? I'm thinking it's a battleship. There's a cause and a war that's being fought
Sure.
for the kingdom of heaven.
Absolutely.
And how can we get the wounded back onto the field the quickest,
100%. Because
the fittest?
yeah, not only just back on the field, but healthier than they've ever been,
Yeah.
and the
And
kingdom expands because of it.
and so that like even in wars today, they still have rotations from the
Sure.
front line. Like, hello,
Yeah.
duh. Master. Take a break.
It's right here. It's just well,
Um,
because the research that I've done is that those that go through either the forced termination, forced resignation, unjustified termination, burnout, all of those, 60 to 70% never go back into ministry. And it's no wonder we're hemorrhaging church leaders. And what you're saying is not only can we get them back in, we can get them back in more fit.
well, totally. Like the stats, just generally in Australia, if someone's on sick leave for more than 6 months, it's rare that they would return to work.
Wow.
And that's not just leaders, not just Christian leaders, but
That's just
so that's in a snapshot. Our passion is to sustain leaders' vitality. We're
sure.
researching a high level. We've also researched, did a qualitative study with Professor Chuck Ridley on what are the competencies required to be able to lift someone's sustainability and well-being. And so we know what those competencies are, and we're able to train people in those, which this goes with that
Yeah,
really well.
just
We know what sick is, and we know how to get them better. And so I'm wondering if there's some pastors who are listening today and going, I wonder if I could be doing this. And the first question is, how do you get healthy? And
yeah.
the second one is, how do you develop the competencies to be able to help others to get better? Because it's a different role from just telling people what they need to do. It's enabling transformation. How do you enable the transformation in someone's life that helps them to lift from a place of depletion, or not paying attention to their work-life balance or their boundaries actually increasing? Matt, I have two books that I'd love to recommend to people.
Please,
Uh,
please do.
I've written these. This is the story of burnout, and it's more than the story of burnout. You can see the forward is by Chris Adams,
Yep.
whom I mentioned before. So Chris Adams, I studied with him, and this has a lot of great information as to the stats on burnout and what is burnout.
Mm.
So it's not just my story, but it's a study, and it's practical advice for organizational leaders, for boards looking after their team, for spouses. My spouse is going through burnout. My wife has written a chapter in there about her own journey of
Yeah.
depletion and how did she do the journey with me. Uh,
Mhm.
um, so that's available on Amazon. Uh, you'll put the link in later. And the
Yep.
second one is on the competencies of the health of a Christian leader. So this is all about creating a vision for health. This is a deep dive into the health of a Christian leader, 25 behavioral expressions.
Hmm.
Coming soon is some books on how do you lift others' well-being.
Oh, the
They're
third
in
part of that.
production.
Yeah,
They're in production. So,
it
Verve .com is our website. There are links on
absolutely.
there to the books, but you'll also be able to put them on here.
Yep, I'll when we this'll post, here in about a week or so, and when we do, this will be, absolutely the link to vervelead.com, the link to the books will be on there. Don, I just knew when we spent some time together in LA and we spent some time together in, Houston that we were kindred spirits. I knew you were okay when you trusted me to drive and to drive you places, and you even navigated for me. And even though I was on the wrong side of the road from you, but we made it
Amazing.
there. I mean, it was
Amazing.
great. But
Yeah.
man, brother, I knew you were a kindred spirit, and been looking forward to this moment. I can't thank you enough for not only telling your story, but your passion and what the Lord has put together through you. So if you're yeah, any last words? Give us some last words there.
Well, firstly to you, Matt, thank you for what you're doing here, and thank you because this is so in alignment with what we're doing. It's helping, providing a space where people can have conversations about how they're doing and to
Absolutely.
reflect. And so being able to stop and pause and reflect, how am I doing? To your listeners, get a page and ask the question, how am I doing?
Mm,
And then what do I see, and what steps could I take, and who could help me? There's
sure.
some very practical little steps to pause for a moment. And to those who are listening to this and watching this, if you're in a place of going, well, I got nothing in the tank, I want to say to you that you're not going to stay here.
Yeah.
This may be where you are today, but it
Yeah.
doesn't define where you're going, because the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not
Absolutely.
want. He lets me rest. Please rest, and he will restore your soul for his name's sake. Thank you for those who have been fighting the fight and got depleted, but please rest and let him fill you.
Don, I can't end on a better note. That is absolutely beautiful. Thank you for your ministry. Thank you for your words. If you're a wounded pastor or a burnout pastor or burnout leader listening to this podcast, and I want to tell you, let's remove the stigma of the story. Let's
Yes.
let's listen to your story, share your story. If you want to share your story with other leaders, you can go on woundedleadership.com. There's a page called Tell Your Story. Send that to me. We will pray over that, look over that. There may be some of those that want to be a future guest on the podcast and find healing in the telling of your story. Because if we can remove that, we can have those conversations, realize that we're not alone, then we can find some healing, and not just returning to the battlefield, not returning just to the field in the game, but more fit, and the kingdom will be greater for it.
Mm-hmm.
Don,
Mm-hmm.
my brother, thank you so much. I can't wait till I see you again. And one of these days, Lord willing, I'm just going to have to come visit you.
Please come. Please come. We'd love to say good day, show you around.
Absolutely. Don, thank you so much. I praying for you, brother. And this has been amazing. This has been Wounded Leadership, Stories from the Wounded. Until next time, find healing in your story. Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Wounded Leadership Podcast, Stories from the Wounded. We hope today's conversation has given you valuable insight into how vulnerability and resilience work to shape truly authentic leadership. Remember, our wounds don't define us. Every scar tells a story of survival, and every setback creates an opportunity for extraordinary growth. If today's episode resonated with you, please visit us at woundedleadership.com, where you're going to find resources, community forums, opportunities to share your own leadership journey. I also invite you to subscribe, rate, review this podcast on your favorite platform. Your support helps us to reach more leaders who might be struggling in silence. Till next time, this is Dr. Matthew Tanner reminding you that your wounds can become your greatest source of wisdom, connection, and strength. It's the Wounded Leadership Podcast, transforming wounds into wisdom, one story at a time.